Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Helena and welcome. In today's video I'm going to be discussing this free pattern from Mood Fabrics, and you can find out how it went for me after this. So this is the Bixa sweatshirt and the Primrose pants. This is a free pattern by the fabric company Mood Fabrics in America. You may know them from Project Runway. They've actually been releasing quite a few free patterns, and some of them look quite interesting. So the Bixa sweatshirt is a sweatshirt pattern. It originally has a sort of puff sleeve with an overlay available, but they've hacked it to have a wide sleeve. I guess you could say bell, is that a bell? I'm not really sure. And then they again have used that sweatshirt to make this in a double gauze, which has no bust darts and is not a stretch fabric. So the next pattern that they used with this outfit is the Primrose pant, and so it is an elasticated waist with a tie. So it has a paper bag effect to it. You can add belt loops, as well as the back has a welt pocket. The picture and the technical sketch drawing looks as if they taper down, but I wouldn't really say that they do. I would say that they're more of a straight leg rather than a tapered down leg. As with free patterns, you know, I'm always a bit skeptical about how they're going to turn out, but they're free. So this one is, I saw a blog post by Mood Fabrics and they had this picture, which I will insert now, of the website, in the website. It was a blog post. So on the blog post, they used the Bixa sweatshirt and the Primrose pants to make like a monochromatic kind of like autumny set. Now because obviously it's spring here, we're in a different time zone, but I really liked that for some reason. I'm not really sure why. I think maybe I should have done the bow. I'll show you the picture of what the one, rather than the tie. I mean, like they just did a bigger bow. Anyway, but yeah, I was really inspired by that. And they used I think it was a double gauze. They had it in more of like a terracotta color. This color, on camera, it looks like a bit of purpley brown, but it's a little bit muted. I'll see if I can insert some photos. Yeah, maybe that's it's a little bit more toned down than it looks right here. This is quite, yeah, this is quite intense a colour. So, how did I go? So this fabric I got from Spotlight. They call it a crinkle double cloth, and it's a cotton. So it is kind of like 2 layers of this fabric, which it kind of was similar to the gauze they used in the Mood Fabric stuff, but it's more of like a, I don't know if you can see that texture. Yeah, it has more of like a straight line texture rather than a crisscross texture. But like, is this crinkle cotton? I don't really know what this fabric is, but on Spotlight they call it double crinkle cloth, and it's 100% cotton. So it's for spring for me. It is coming up to spring and it's getting a little bit warmer, so this is kind of nice to have something sort of lounge around, cash. But I could also wear it out, right? For the sizing, I decided to make the size, so how the sizing works, it's like 8 to 10, you know, it's like 8 to 10, 12 to 14. It's not like 8 or 10, it's not a straight one. So both the top and the bottom are size 8 to 10 is what I did. So if I look at the measurement chart let me look at it, I will put it up here. So technically, because they do sizes 2, 4, 8, 7, 8, 9, but when you actually take the pattern out, it's 8 to 10, 10 to 12 in one size for this specific two ones, maybe because they are quite loose fitting garments. But if I was to really go by this chart, for my bust, I would fit a size 2, and for my waist and hips, I would fit the size 9. So yeah, I decided to go for the 8 to 10. For the Primrose pants, because I've got more butt there, and it didn't matter to me if it was a bit more loose. For the top, I have to remember, did I go 8 to 10? Yes, I believe I did, because I wanted it to just be more loose, and because this Bixa sweatshirt, naturally sweatshirt, is designed for knit fabrics. And so they actually used this pattern in the blog post. I'll put a picture like what I was saying. And they used that pattern. So I was quite skeptical, considering that it had no bust darts, and it had a, like a stretch on collar type thing. So, but I was like, okay, I'll try their way. I'll try it. I'll try how they do it. I was skeptical, but yeah, so I made it 8 to 10. So it's got a bit more room there. It's a bit, So they also show you in the blog post how to hack the sleeves to do this sort of flared effect. So what they did is they got the Bixa sweatshirt and the big puff bottom. They actually turned it upside down and put the bigger bit at the bottom, it's naturally this end, and then they sort of merged them together. I'll show you a picture, and I'll link the blog post below. So that's what they did. It came out alright. The only thing is, because if you look in the picture, it's quite a loose fitting in the inspiration picture. It's quite a loose fitting around this area, but then that sort of covered the pants top edge, and I just don't really like that aesthetic of just being very baggy there, but some people might. So I've just taken to just doing a little tie here, and I'll put some photos of me wearing it. So I kind of like that in a way. It's kind of something, it's got a bit different. I could have made a smaller size and put some little bust darts in, but it's kind of like very airy and loose, so it might be good for a little bit of a medium warm day. Got where I want to wear sleeves, but it's still a little bit hot. That's the fabric, the size, the fit for the sweatshirt. One more thing about the sweatshirt. So what I did is, instead of doing the neckband, I decided to make a facing, which you can sort of see a sneak peek here. So I did a facing there, right? And so what I just did to do that facing is I grabbed the front and back around the necklines. I sort of traced the curve of the neckline and slightly down and slightly down on the top edge and the front center bodice bit, and I just did about 4 or 5 centimeters thickness, and left some room for actually no, I think that I didn't leave room seam allowance, because it already includes seam allowance in the pattern. The seam allowance included in the pattern is 1/2 inch, I believe. You can see that on the blog posts, but I did just cut them on the fold. So yeah, I basically just drafted a quick facing, so that's really easy. You just follow the necklines. I did end up shortening the sleeves a little bit from what original length of using the method that they used of turning it upside down and whatnot. So that's that. If you are going to use a similar size to this, I don't think you will need as much fabric as they recommended. I do have a little bit left over, I believe, but it wasn't too far off. Especially if you're making one of the bigger sizes, and depending on how wide your fabric is and whatnot. So as for the pants, which you can kind of see here, I'll put some better pictures and videos. I did make the size 8 to 10, like I said. Obviously it's the same fabric from Spotlight, the crinkle double cloth cotton. I got it on sale at the time. It was a pretty good price. I think it was $7.80 or something. The instructions I felt for the Bixa sweatshirt made a little bit more sense than the Primrose pants. So the Primrose Pants, they link you to another blog post, which is the original post of the Primrose Pants, and they use a completely different type of fabric. And they also have a, why am I mental blanking on what it's called? On the back of the pants, it's used in tailoring, a welt pocket. But because I have done welt pockets before, and I know that they can be a bit of a pain, and I just wasn't feeling it, and I just didn't think they were really needed in a design like this. Like, if this was more of a stiff fabric, then perhaps maybe I would consider it, but it's just kind of meant to be casual. It's not really meant to be very tailored, so putting a welt pocket in a tailored garment, and on top of, like, welt pockets can, like, they're okay, but they can also go terribly wrong, and I just didn't want to deal with that. And this fabric is quite delicate, I would say, in some respects, so I just pulling and cutting, and no. Does anyone else not like doing welt pockets? So yeah, as for the fit, I made 8 to 10 like I said, and yeah, I'd say there's quite a lot of room. It does have pockets, which I think is really great that it has pockets. Like, I don't know if I'll use them, but I kind of like the effect of it. And the belt that they give you in the blog post picture, it's like, it looks like they've lengthened the belt and curved it off so they could tie it into a cute bow. And I think that's what attracted to me at first, but I didn't realize that it was just a straight tie. So I just made the straight tie, which you can see, and it's like not really long enough to turn into a bow, and the edges are a bit, like, they're not curved like a cute bow, they're just straight. So I was like, oh damn, I should have done that, but I didn't realize that it's weird. The other weird thing about this pants is, so it comes with like, so this is the front piece. So if you can see that, there's the curve and then there's sort of this bit that comes out. And the pictures didn't have a front fly, and none of the other blog posts that used this pattern seemed to have a front fly. So I was kind of confused, why was there sort of like a little bit of an extension there, in my opinion, that would be probably for a fly, or perhaps, like, I just don't, what else, am I missing something? Because, like, what else would that be for? I don't really know. But yeah, so you could easily draft a fly if you wanted to, but again, because I don't want to deal with that. And it's a really loose fit. I would say it's quite loose around the hips, and I quite like that, because I hate when things are really tight on my hips, because I quite often find that specifically ready-to-wear garments, it's like, oh, waist is like, oh, slightly loose. Hips is like, oh, it's gonna packing me in there, and then gets to my legs and it gets a bit loose, and it's just annoying. Like, and you just kind of feel a bit. There's like a bit, you know, and then you sit down and you're like, oh, it's a bit, and I feel a bit like I'm packed in there, and I just, not my vibe, especially not in spring. Anyone else? But yeah, so I assumed that was for a front fly. Don't know why, I don't understand. None of the instructions explained or mentioned a front fly, so like, why is that there? I don't really get it, but I just sort of squared that off. Like, I went from this line and sort of got rid of it, and then sewed it up without a front fly, because it has an elastic gathered band. Yeah, so as for all that, like I said, the sizing and the fabrics and whatnot, I didn't really make any changes to the pants, but I would make a wider and longer belt tie next time. Primrose pants seem to be missing quite a few steps on how to do them. Folding down the waistband, it's very vague. It's just sort of fold it down. I'm like, okay, there's a few notches on the pattern that can kind of help you with these things, but I'm still not sure if I actually did it the right way, and sewed in the right positions, because before you feed the elastic down, so usually when you do a waistband, let's say if it's one of those you fold it over, sew it, and leave a gap, and then put the elastic through. But because this is a paper bag type waist, you have to sew another line so that it can feed through that channel. But it doesn't say that, it does have a picture of that, So yeah, there's quite a few steps that I felt were like missing, and then I was like, wait, was I supposed to do that? Oh, and then I realized that they just haven't said that, and they've just skipped to a different step. It was a little bit confusing, but you know, like I made them, so if I was a beginner and I was sewing this, I would be very confused. I would be like, well, what about this? Do I finish this edge? And they didn't. There was a lot of, oh, you finished this, but they didn't mention other things to finish. So if you are a complete beginner, you're probably going to get a little confused with their patterns, at least with this one. But if you're like me, sewing for a couple years, kind of starting to get to the point where you kind of go your own way with patterns, and you know, have a browse through the instructions, the seam allowances, and kind of just go at it yourself. So if you're at that point, I think you'll probably make it fine, considering how simplistic the design is. And yeah, I would totally recommend this fabric from Spotlight. I will link it below. Yeah, it's double. Yeah, if you search double crinkle cloth, and it's 126 centimeters wide, and they had it in a few different colors. The only thing with this fabric is, this fabric does kind of have like a purpley red tinge to it. Because this fabric is a bit darker, it's darker on screen than real life, I'm telling you. It's more muted, but that's why I chose a darker color, because it's quite a lightweight fabric, so I was worried that it would be kind of see-through. Still even mildly, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's see-through because it's quite dark. There was lighter colors like blues or greens, and I kind of wanted to get them, but I was just worried they were going to be see-through, and then you know, it's kind of defeats the whole purpose of having like a loose garment that's like flowy and airflow if you have to put like lining or some sort of thing underneath. So that just makes it hotter. And anyway, but yeah, so they recommend that for autumn, but it's spring, I'm doing my own thing, whatever. So yeah, in summary, I didn't think it was entirely terrible. A lot of people have said, oh, mood fabric patterns are terrible. I wouldn't say they're terrible, I just say they're mildly a bit confusing, because they're free, they're not taking a lot of time to make these blog posts, and some of the things are not clearly explained, like why is there like an extension on this when it doesn't have a front fly? Like, why? Can you please explain that to me? So that's everything I have to talk about in this pattern. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you would consider trying this one, or if you're thinking about doing any other mood fabric patterns, or if you have, let me know. I'd love to see. And I'll see you next video. Bye!